A quiet park and a jogger out for a morning run. This is Nina Falaise. Nina jogs to keep fit for her work and to train for a marathon. People run the marathon for a sense of achievement and for the fun of running with lots of other people. If you're running 26 miles non-stop, you need the cheers of the onlookers to keep you going. But when Nina runs the marathon, she can't hear the cheers. Nina is almost totally deaf.
I never did realise as a child that I was deaf until there was one day when I was playing in the street with some other children, and you know how one draws on the pavement like hopscotch or whatever you call it, and I noticed that the children had written, "Oh, Nina is a twit, she is deaf." And it shocked me because I didn't quite understand what it meant. I knew what Nina was a twit was, but the second part, and then I asked my mother and she told me, she tried to explain to me, and it was that really hit me. It was a very big shock.
Shock or not, it didn't stop Nina from pursuing a career as a professional dancer, a career that takes her all over the world. At the moment, she's rehearsing a new dance and looking forward to performing it in Germany. But it is unusual for a deaf person to become a dancer. So what got Nina started?
When I was with my parents and their friends, I could never communicate to their friends. So I used to get very frustrated at not being able to communicate. So when I heard the music that was on in the room, I would get up and spontaneously dance to the music, almost like saying, "Well, here I am, look at me."
Nina only has about 5% of normal hearing, and that's not very much. So how does she even know there's any music there?
When I hear the music, I get the vibrations, which comes through the floor or the sound waves in the ear. Of course, a live orchestra is much better because the vibrations are much stronger, but also with a tape recorder I can get the vibrations.
There are well over 1 million people in this country with a hearing problem. Some, like Nina, are born deaf. Accidents or illnesses can leave a person deaf, and for most of us, our hearing gets worse with old age.
Right, okay. Now I'm going to ask you to move your head a little bit this way, so that that's it, that's fine, so that I can see every bit of your eardrum.
Ellis
now.
Dueck is an ear specialist at Guy's Hospital in London.
It looks fine to me. Good. And I can see it now. Make it a bit bigger. Aren't they marvelous?
We asked Ellis if he could explain how we hear.
Well, I think in order to do that, I'll have to explain to you about the ear. And here we have a section of the ear. A section means that it's as though it's been cut across, so we can look inside. And this is the canal, the ear hole is there. And at the bottom of that is an eardrum. And if sounds come into the ear canal, the eardrum will vibrate. You see, when I move the drum here, we find that it's moving a little bone. And this little bone moves another little bone. They have names. This one is called the hammer. The second one is called the anvil. And the third is called the stirrup for obvious reasons. Now we have 3 bones because they act as levers. And it transmits the vibration to this shell-like structure here, which is called the cochlea. Now, let's see what happens. And you see each time the vibration comes through the cochlea, it's transmitted from the cochlea into the nerve of hearing and from the nerve to the brain.
So could the ear be damaged by, say, loud rock music?
Oh, indeed it can, but it's all a matter of degree. You see, first of all, it has to be loud enough to damage, and it's only recently that concerts have been so loud that the matter has become a problem. The other thing is frequency, how long you're subjected to that noise. Our patients who are working in, say, the shipbuilding industry, been there for 40 years or so. Regarding rock concert, I don't think that one concert is going to damage the ear permanently. But if people start going very regularly, and it's very loud all the time, then over the weeks, over the months, the damage becomes permanent and they lose some hearing.
Rock bands go on tour with an enormous quantity of equipment. So much equipment that it takes a full day just to unload and set it up. The sound has to be loud, and it has to be just as good as it is on the record. The reason for all this equipment is to make the sound loud enough, to amplify it. Electrical signals from the microphones go to the mixing desk. There, the engineers try out different combinations of volume and tone to suit the particular hall. Power amplifiers feed the speakers with electrical signals. The signals make the cone inside the speaker vibrate. This is slow-motion photography of a cone moving. It shows the vibrations 20 times slower than they really are. If you turn down the power, the speaker cone moves a smaller distance. The sound gets quieter. If you turn the power back up again, the cone moves further. The sound gets louder. The sound changes to a higher note when the speaker vibrates faster. And when the speaker vibrates slower, the note gets lower. As the speaker cone moves outwards, it pushes out pulses of sound. The pulses spread outwards. Every time the speaker cone moves forwards, a pulse is produced. If the cone movement is greater, it produces a louder sound. And if the cone movement is less, then the sound produced is quieter. Here the cone is vibrating faster. As it vibrates more often, it makes pulses more often. The pulses are closer together. This is a higher frequency. And this is a lower frequency. The cone vibrates more slowly. It makes pulses less often. So the pulses are further apart. Lower frequency means further apart. And higher frequency means closer together. The sound engineers have to set up and test all the speakers. In the group's sound system, different speakers are used for different parts of the frequency range.
It's my impersonation of Kiwi Cool.
Bass again.
The large speakers at the bottom handle the lowest frequencies, the bass notes. They have large speaker cones which can move a long way, and so they can produce loud sounds. But because the cones are so big, they can't move very fast. They're no good for higher frequencies.
Yeah, okay.
So, going up the stack, there are speakers with medium-sized cones. Because they can vibrate a bit faster, they produce the mid-range frequencies. At the very top are the smallest speakers, with the smallest cones of all. They can vibrate fastest and produce the very highest notes. Sound moves through the air. Imagine that the air is made up of layers. When the speaker cone moves forwards, it pushes the layers of air outwards. Each layer in turn pushes the next layer of air outwards. So each layer of air moves forwards, pushes the next layer, and then moves back to where it started. But that's as far as the layer moves. It hands on the pulse. It's the pulse that moves outwards. The pulse keeps on moving, handed on from one layer of air to the next, until it eventually fades away. Let's look at just one of these imaginary layers. The layer moves back and forward, first forward, then back to its starting point. The cycle repeats over and over again. We've used a marker which moves backwards and forwards in time with the layer. Obviously, the distance the marker moves is different at different times. You can use the movement of the marker to plot a graph. You can see why people talk about sound waves. This is what a louder sound looks like. The layer and the spot move a greater distance, so the peaks on the graph are bigger. And this is a higher frequency sound. The peaks occur more often. They're closer together. The audience at a concert won't be thinking about how the sound is being made, but it does matter to the engineers. They have to think about it so they can get the best possible sound for the group. This is the Barbican Centre. It's home for the Royal Shakespeare Company and the London Symphony Orchestra. When it was designed, the architects wanted to make the halls look good and to give them the best possible acoustics. The sound quality can be just as important as the performance, whether it's a rock concert or a classical concert. loud noise in a concert hall doesn't just stop when the instrument stops. It carries on. It reverberates. How long it takes to die away is very important in concert hall design. In an enclosed space, the pulses of sound move outwards until they meet something solid, like a wall. Then they bounce off the wall. They're reflected. This is a simplified animation. The real thing is more complex. And we've not even included the reflections from other walls or the ceiling. Something as complicated as that can only be worked out using a model.
The model is at 1:8 scale, and everything is reproduced accurately, geometrically. We are using varnished plywood to simulate the acoustic characteristics of the concrete that's in the hall. And in all other ways, we reproduce the acoustic characteristics. Most importantly, the seats, which we have foam on them to reproduce the generally foam surface in the actual seats. In the model, we're using a spark source. This produces a very short crack. Because it's an 8-scale model, this is what we want. We want something that's roughly 1/8 the duration of the gunshot in the full-size building. And this machine is arranged to playback at 1/8 of the recording speed. So what you will in fact be able to hear when I operate this is what it sounds like in the actual building when you fire off a pistol. So, there's our spark. It's now recorded. And we now play it back, and you will hear what it would sound like in the real building.
The model allowed the designers to say what might happen in the real hall. Before the first public performance in 1983, trials in the real hall gave some disappointing results. The sound wasn't as good as it should have been because of unusual reflections from the ceiling. In the model, Mike tried an idea using plastic globes. The idea seemed to work, so full-size globes were added to the real hall. And they've made a big difference.
There has, as I'm sure you're aware, been some criticism of the acoustics of the hall, but that was right at the beginning. And I suppose that was about 9 months ago when we first came to do our first trial in here. Since then, a large number of changes have been made. Wood has been put in, certain materials have been taken out, and the overall sound now, I think it's possibly one of the most beautiful, certainly the warmest sounds that I've heard in a concert hall for a long time. So from that point of view, we're very happy about it.